What do you think the world would look like if we only operated on both ends of the spectrum?
Walk, walk in, chest great, we don't play. Staff talk sharp like a quiz on a Monday. Whiteboard wars, yeah, we grade all day. If you can't take that heat, stay out the hallway. Hey, this is the staff room. Say it loud, say it loud. The staff room.
Let's get into it.
Okay, welcome back to the staff room. My name is Dr. Matos, 16-year veteran and author of How School Leaders Motivate Teachers in Real Classrooms, The Practitioner's Guide. You can get it on Amazon, link in the description. So today, I have a video for you that's kind of hits close to heart. What happens when we start looking at children with special needs as only criminals? But what could also happen if we allow them to have zero accountability? This was an interesting video that I came across because it takes a look or has a dialogue of both ends of that spectrum. I think both ends of that spectrum are extremely dangerous. So I want to take a look at what this gentleman's saying, and I want to have a discussion with you all about how you feel. Is there a middle ground to what he's saying, or is he speaking some truths? Okay, let's take a look.
About that 12-year-old autistic boy that was sentenced to 13 years in prison? I did. I can't believe they would put an autistic child behind bars. Don't they know the reason why he did what he did was because of his autism? Well, no, your disability is not an excuse for you to act any type of way without having any type of consequence. This student vandalized a classroom and assaulted a student and an administrator.
All right, we're gonna stop right there. So first things first. As far as I know, this is a hypothetical situation. It certainly sounds like a hypothetical situation the way he's discussing it, but who knows in today's world. Let me start out by saying that if we're going to use autism as our gauging factor, make sure we understand that there's a wide spectrum of autistic behaviors. You can have fully functioning adults who are aware of everything around them, who are aware of their feelings, who are aware of social cues, who have autism, and you can have the complete opposite end of the spectrum. So you can have adults and kids who have no ability to regulate, who are nonverbal, who are highly susceptible to stimuli in all kinds of ways. So to use autism as a baseline automatically is a bad decision. If we were going to use let's say an emotional disorder, or maybe something like that, I think maybe ADHD we could go with. I think that would be a better gauge. I don't even think we can go into in a lot of instances the other disabilities like Down syndrome and things of that nature, because again, the spectrum for people that have those disabilities is very wide. So it's very similar to autism in that sense. And I don't even deny that this dialogue is happening, but to use autism is tricky, but it is a disability that's discussed a lot in our society, I would say. So I'll tell you how I feel in a little bit. Let's listen to what he's saying is happening here.
You know, it's incredibly harmful to put an autistic child behind bars at such a young age, right?
Any child. It's incredibly harmful to put any child behind bars at such a young age. There's all different reasons. But what I will say is that in this instance, let's just say the child is high functioning, right? And we decided to say that, oh, we're just going to give him consequences. That's not going to fix him. That doesn't even fix adults. That doesn't mean that a child doesn't need consequences, right? But in this case, a consequence is not going to fix the situation. It's not. We have to remember that we're still educators at the end of the day. So parents, this is a point for you.
You know that student threw a coat hanger at an administrator, right? Resulting in her eye popping out of the socket, where she had to be airlifted to the hospital, where unfortunately they couldn't even save her eye, right?
Why was there a coat hanger in a classroom? See, this is what I mean. I don't know if this gentleman's an educator. Again, I don't know if this is satire, but when we put type stuff like this in social media, we give people the wrong idea of things that are happening. Most classrooms who have students that are that I guess extreme on the spectrum do not have objects like that within those classrooms. They're very neurosensitive, and they're highly trained, and they understand that these things are things that have happened in the past. Kids do throw stuff, especially kids that have autism and are having a breakdown based off of being overstimulated. But throwing a coat hanger, yeah, I don't feel like that's true.
That's 100% the administrator's fault. If you watch the mom's video response, she said that they didn't follow the BIP, they didn't follow the IEP, and they shouldn't even have had a coat hanger in the classroom to begin with.
Let's talk about what this is, because I get this a lot. Parents, you're going to take an L on this one. We got to stop using IEPs and BIPs as justification for things that kids are doing. And for those of you who don't know what an IEP and a BIP is, an IEP is an individual education plan. The IEP covers educational goals, right? And some social emotional goals. It's not something that's going to give you all of the answers to handle a kid that's going to have a complete meltdown. So just because your kid has an IEP doesn't justify your kid's behavior. They're still going to have to pay some form of consequence in the end. Then they said they didn't follow the BIP, the behavior intervention plan. Now, this is more geared towards behaviors and how best to combat those behaviors in terms of preventative strategies, and also how to reteach those new the new behaviors that you want, the preferred behaviors that you want. And also the plan of what's going to happen if there is an issue or I guess a serious occurrence, right? So let's say the kid goes into some form of crisis. It kind of gives you a mapping of what to do in that situation. But what they don't tell you is that a BIP is only going to give you what they deem is the most targeted area. So you have a plan to deal with a kid when they break down, for example, because they didn't have breakfast in the morning, right? Breakfast is an antecedent. The child goes into a crisis. They begin, maybe they'll flip a desk, or they begin to try to run out the room. The plan tells you what to do in that occurrence. It doesn't iron out what to do in every occurrence. It doesn't iron out what to do in every environment. And that's huge, because there's going to be things that you have at your disposal in your classroom that you're not going to have outside of your classroom. And a child that's low on the autism spectrum can go off anywhere. Okay. Is there preventative measures that you can take? Absolutely. But what we cannot get used to doing is relating behavior with instructional supports. Okay. The child still has to, I guess, have some form of accountability, because they do understand when they are in the wrong after the fact. Okay. Let's continue.
Well, having a BIP and an IEP doesn't exempt you from the consequences of your own actions,
Correct.
especially when you break the law. I can't believe teachers like you exist where you support sending autistic students to prison. And I can't believe ableists like you exist where you justify students acting any type of way and using their disability as an excuse so they don't have any type of accountability. Honestly.
Perfect. So again, this is two huge sides of the spectrum. And if you're having these conversations with people, and I know for a fact that these conversations are happening amongst our policymakers, and I'm sorry, I'm going to tell you exactly the way I feel. They're idiots. Okay. Because you're arguing two extremes, right? Two extreme opposites of the spectrum, kind of like our reds and blues and our political parties are extreme opposites of the same spectrum. In this instance, we're not throwing kids in jail. We're not. It just doesn't make sense. And then you're going to tell me that this is let's say it's a low functioning autistic kid who threw a coat hanger, right? And somebody lost their eye. Okay, I get it. Let me tell you another thing. We're educators. We know exactly what we're getting into. Most people that teach autistic students are there because it's a labor of love. It's a passion that they have. They're highly, highly aware of what can and cannot happen. Secondly, parents, we need to make sure that we're still parenting our kids. Stop using their disability as a crutch. You're killing them. You're killing them. Every time something happens, oh, well, we know this and yes, we know and you know as well. So tell me, what do you do at home? Because I guarantee you, when these kids are at home, they're iPadding all day. Why? Because I get it, parents, you're busy. I understand, but you still have to prepare them to be on their own in a classroom. Why are we not taking that into consideration? The best place for them to learn is with you. You can do things that that teachers cannot. I always just classify myself with the teachers because, again, I work with them, I coach them. I just feel most at home with educators. Now, I have a child that's on the autism spectrum. She is, I would say, mid to high functioning. She is parented. And if my wife and I did not parent her the way we did, and if I wasn't informed enough to understand that she is on the spectrum very early, she would be way lower functioning than what she is. If her teacher calls me and tells me, Dr. Matos, she had an episode and she did this, guess what? There's going to be two ways that I need that to be handled. One, I'm handling it when I get home. We're going to first have a conversation. Okay, I'm going to teach her what things are right and wrong. I'm going to teach her how to manage her stress. I'm going to teach her how to regulate her emotions. We're going to practice it. And then she's going to go to school and try again. However, on the other hand, parents, this is also your right. I need you to hold that teacher accountable. I hold my daughter's teacher accountable. Why? Because I would do the same for anybody else's kid. When my daughter comes in, you better make sure you understand that she is in a class that teaches social learning. So if she has an issue because of something she doesn't understand in that moment, I need you to do what any great special needs educator would do. Shut everything down, teach the proper behavior, make sure there's no more crisis behaviors, make sure they're in stable functioning, and move forward after that. Stop honing in on the consequence. You cannot give a consequence if you did not teach a replacement behavior. It doesn't work. So if they don't have a behavior to fall back on, then you're going to get the negative behavior. That's an educator's fault. In that instance, they went crazy and hit you with a hanger. And in that instance, you could have avoided it. Okay, so just to recap, parents, parent your kids, stop the foolishness. Teachers, make sure you're teaching the right criteria. Okay, now the next thing, if you are an educator and you know, and trust me, you know when that child's coming into your class, you know that they are highly aggressive, okay, you have to take the proper precautions to educate that child. All right, I'm going through it right now with a department that I head up. We have a child that's highly aggressive. We organize accordingly. We make sure that the triggers are not in place, and then we move from there. We make sure all hands are on deck at all times. If you have an autism cluster, you have various supports that are in place. You have to use those supports. You have to use your visuals. You have to use your de-escalation techniques. You have to use your team. This really aggravates me. Whose idea was it to do room clears? Let's get all the other kids out of the room so the learning is completely over. Or maybe you can go outside and learn, but then we could just let them tear the classroom up. And then when they're done, they're done. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. Somebody else needs your job. No, you have to address the behavior. Then when stable functioning resumes, you need to reteach and reflect. If you have to hold on to a child's hand, that should be done. We can't. And honestly, if you got a 6'4" child, that's 240 pounds, then the principals, or excuse me, your administrators at fault for sticking that kid in your class if you're 5'5" with no support. Okay, teachers, take precaution. You can avoid a lot of these situations, a lot of them. I'll say that comfortably. And if you want to argue, jump in the comments. Let's have a discussion. Lastly, policymakers. Here on the staff room, we were looking at every single aspect of the educational system and the people who carry it out. And as I always say, everybody's at fault. Policymakers and administrators, you know that there is a higher number of autistic children coming through our pipelines every year. Tinfoil hat, you probably know how they're getting that way. Tinfoil hat off. But you know they're coming, right? Why are we still arguing about funding? We know we have to fix our educational system. Why are we not putting the correct supports in place? Why are we not funding according to need? Why are we not coming up with the proper solutions to those types of funding problems? And stop cutting people's funding because you feel that it's going to help you in your political race. Excuse me. If you have a school with 10 autistic kids, they should be funded as such. And the support should be given as such. Maybe if we treated our educators the proper way, and we promoted education and its importance, more people would want to become educators. More people would want to deal with certain things. There's some school districts where you receive hazard pay. There's some school districts that assure that all these children that are high needs have high needs support, such as RBTs. Those are behavioral teachers that travel with those students, such as paraprofessionals specific to that student. Why are we not doing that? What country do we get used to it? Most of your taxes are gonna cover it. Most of the times you don't even recognize your taxes are being taken out of your check. As my coworker likes to say, you guys like roads, right? Well, these things are going for stuff that's to help you live better. Let's get our stuff together. Policymakers are at fault. Teachers are at fault. Parents are at fault. Students are caught in the middle. In this case, we're not locking up kids with special needs. We should lock you up because y'all have special needs, because y'all can't come up with a system to save y'all life. And parents, you're too scared to parent your kid.
Walk in, chest great, we don't play.